name's Josh. I'm 29, live just outside Portland, Oregon. I own a 2-bedroom house my dad left me when he passed, and for the last few years I've been renting out the second room to cover the mortgage. Craigslist was my go-to for that cheap, fast, no hassle. Back in late 2021, I posted the usual ad. Room for rent. $600. Month. All utilities included. Quiet neighborhood. Must be clean and respectful. I interviewed a few people, but the one who stood out was Daniel Kramer. Early 30s. Clean-cut, soft-spoken, had a job at a local print shop. He seemed normal, maybe a little shy, but polite and kind of awkward in that IT guy sort of way. He had all the paperwork ready. ID, references, first month's rent. By the end of the week, he moved in. At first, everything was fine. We barely saw each other. He kept to himself, paid rent on time, cleaned up after himself. Until things got off. It started with small stuff. I'd find my bedroom door slightly open when I knew I closed it. Nothing missing, but weird. Once, I noticed my shaving razor in the bathroom had moved, not stolen, just shifted, like someone used it and placed it back carelessly. One night, I came home from a late shift and saw the kitchen light on. Not unusual, but Daniel wasn't in the kitchen. Just the light, buzzing faintly. I knocked on his door, no answer, so I called out, "Hey man, everything good?" The door opened almost instantly. He was standing there, barefoot, in pajamas, completely calm. "Yeah, just reading," he said. "Did you turn the kitchen light on?" "Nope. Maybe you forgot?" "Maybe I did." I let it go. But that night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time in years. 2 weeks later, I woke up around 3 a.m. because I heard the floorboards creak outside my door. It wasn't just footsteps. It was standing, still, silent, just there. I didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. Eventually, whoever it was walked away. In the morning, I confronted Daniel. "Hey, were you up around 3 a.m.? "No, was dead asleep." He smiled when he said it, and I swear to God, I noticed his left eye twitch slightly when he lied. That evening, I installed a motion-activated camera in the hallway. Cheap Amazon one. Connected it to my phone. Next night, 3:12 a.m. ping. Movement detected. I opened the feed. Daniel was standing directly in front of my door. For 7 minutes. Not moving, not knocking, just standing. Then he turned around and walked back to his room. That same day, I told him I needed him out by the end of the month. No drama. Just said my girlfriend might move in. He nodded, said okay. But the next morning, I left for work early, forgot my wallet, so I came back home around 9 a.m. and found Daniel's door wide open. He wasn't inside. I peeked in. Nothing too weird: bed, bookshelf, clothes, a few boxes, but something didn't feel right. I noticed a vent cover on the wall near the floor was missing. There was a hole in the wall barely large enough to crawl through, but it led somewhere. I knelt down, turned on my flashlight, and froze. There was a small area behind the wall, like a crawl space someone had turned into a room. Inside it were a mattress, a single desk lamp, food wrappers, a stack of photos. I crawled in and looked closer. They were all pictures of me, eating dinner, sleeping, brushing my teeth, taken through gaps in the bathroom mirror, through my bedroom door, even outside through windows. The worst one? A picture of me lying in bed, looking straight at the camera, mouth slightly open, eyes closed. I don't even know when it was taken. I called the police. They came, took the photos, took everything. But Daniel never came back. No prints, no record of employment at that print shop. The ID he gave me? Fake. Craigslist account? Deleted. Police said it wasn't the first time. Similar reports in 3 other states, man using fake names to rent rooms, then disappearing. No theft, no murder, just watching. A quiet obsession with people living ordinary lives. And the twist? One of the officers, while going through Daniel's things, found a spiral notebook. Inside it was a list of names, cities, dates. Mine was on the last page. Josh Carter, Portland, observed 43 days, moving on soon. That was 3 years ago. I moved. I changed jobs. I don't rent out rooms anymore. But sometimes I still feel like I'm being watched. Because the worst part of all of this, he never took anything, except maybe a copy of my house key. This happened last year, March 2024, in Hendersonville, North Carolina. I'm Eric Simmons, 26 at the time, working part-time as a graphic designer and doing odd jobs to make ends meet. I wasn't exactly picky about side gigs. If the money was decent and it didn't sound shady, I took it. I found the house-sitting job through a Facebook community board. The listing was simple. House sitter needed. 3 nights. $800. Must be discreet. Pet-friendly. Discreet caught my eye, but I thought maybe the person was rich and paranoid. I texted the number. The response was immediate. She gave her name, Carolyn Whitley, said she'd be traveling to Savannah and needed someone to watch her house, feed her cat beans, and make sure the place didn't burn down. She offered $800, cash, half up front. The only catch? Don't open the basement door. That's all I ask. I laughed a little when she said that. She didn't. The house was out on the edge of town, quiet street, big trees, no neighbors close enough to hear you sneeze. Classic Southern craftsman-style home, white porch swing, American flag on the mailbox. She was already packed when I arrived. Middle-aged, maybe 50s, polite but off. Like she rehearsed friendliness, but didn't believe in it. She gave me a key, walked me through everything: Wi-Fi password, cat food schedule, light switches. Then she stopped at the basement door. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Don't open this, not even a peek." I asked if something was down there. Mold, repairs. It's better if you just pretend this part of the house doesn't exist. I should have walked then, but $800 is $800. Night 1 was fine. Beans followed me around like a dog. I made mac and cheese, watched a movie, locked all the doors. But around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to a loud thud. It came from downstairs. I sat up, heart racing. Maybe the cat? But Beans was curled up on the end of the bed, staring at the hallway. I grabbed my phone, walked out, and stood at the top of the stairs. The sound came again. Thud. From behind the basement door. I stood there listening. No footsteps, no voices, just stillness. I wanted to check it out, but then her words came back. Not even a peek. So I backed off, locked my bedroom door, tried to convince myself it was old pipes, or maybe she stored heavy boxes that fell. That was the most logical guess. Until the next night. Second night, 11:45 p.m. I was in bed, scrolling my phone. That's when I noticed my phone's flashlight was on. I never turned it on. I tapped the screen. It didn't respond. Then I noticed the flashlight wasn't just on, it was filming. My front camera was recording. I froze. I restarted the phone, deleted the video, thought maybe I'd pocket pressed something earlier, but a minute later my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. They called again. This time I picked up. Silence. Then, "He doesn't like being filmed." The call disconnected. I sat there, stunned. Was it a prank? Carolyn's way of making sure I wasn't snooping? I decided to call her, straight to voicemail. My instincts told me to pack up and leave. But again, one night left, and $400 more to collect. So I stayed. Around 1 a.m., I was in the kitchen when I heard something that made my stomach flip. the sound of a door creaking open. I stepped into the hallway, and that's when I saw it. The basement door, wide open. I stood there, paralyzed. The air coming up from below was cold, musty, and somehow damp. Beans the cat hissed behind me, something he'd never done before. I leaned toward the staircase, turned on my phone flashlight, and whispered, "Hello?" What I heard next wasn't footsteps. It was breathing. Heavy, rhythmic, breathing. I slammed the door shut, locked it, moved a chair in front of it, went straight to my room, and pushed the dresser in front of my own door. I didn't sleep. When Carolyn returned the next morning, she seemed cheerful, like nothing had happened. She handed me the rest of the cash and thanked me. I almost didn't ask, but something in me needed to. "Hey, just out of curiosity, what's in the basement?" She smiled. "Old things I shouldn't have kept. Nothing you need to worry about." That was it. I left, but I couldn't let it go. A week later, I drove by the house. The porch light was off. No car in the driveway. I Googled her name. Nothing. Then I tried the county property records. Here's the part that still messes with me. Carolyn Whitley died in 2019. The house was listed as vacant and under foreclosure. I contacted a local forum and asked if anyone knew her. One guy replied with a link to a crime article from 5 years ago. Carolyn Whitley, local teacher, went missing in 2019. Last seen by neighbors heading into her basement. Her body was never found, but they did find someone else's belongings hidden in a crawl space. Clothes, a notebook, a cat collar with the name Beans. So whoever I met, whoever paid me, wasn't Carolyn, and whatever was in that basement was still alive. I never went back. I never took another house-sitting job. One thing, remember, if someone offers you a few $100 to feed a cat and watch the house, make sure you ask who you're really working for. I've been driving for Uber around Nashville for a few years now, mostly late-night shifts. I prefer the quiet roads, and the tips are usually better. But every now and then, you pick someone up who reminds you why you should always trust your gut. This happened last October. I remember because it was 2 days before Halloween, and people were still in costume. I was parked just off Broadway around 1:30 a.m., sipping bad gas station coffee, when a ride request came in from a bar nearby. It was a standard trip. Solo male passenger, pick up outside a bar, drop off in Bell Media, wealthy, quiet neighborhood. I accepted. The guy was already waiting when I pulled up. Mid-40s, clean cut, navy button-down shirt, clearly expensive. Looked sober, polite. He got in the back and just said, "Thanks for driving." I said, "No problem," and started heading toward the destination. We were maybe 5 minutes in when he suddenly asked, "You ever pick someone up you wish you hadn't?" The question threw me off. I gave a nervous laugh and said, "I hope not." He didn't laugh, just stared out the window and muttered, "I did something bad tonight." I glanced at him in the mirror. His face was blank, no emotion. I tried to keep it light and asked, "You mean like drunk texting your ex kind of bad, or?" "No," he said, "the kind you don't come back from." I stayed quiet after that. A few minutes later, he leaned forward and said, "You ever wonder how easy it is to trust someone behind the wheel?" Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, more like someone enjoying a private joke at your expense. At this point, I was gripping the steering wheel a bit tighter, but we were already close to the destination. I figured I'd drop him off and call it a night. But when we got to the pinned address, he didn't get out. He stared at the house and said, "This isn't mine." I turned around and said, "This is the address you entered." Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "I've never been here before." I said, "Do you want to update the address?" He shook his head slowly. "Number, just wait here." He stepped out of the car and calmly walked up the driveway. No hesitation, no knock, just stood there and stared at the front door. Then I saw him reach under his shirt and pull out gloves. That's when it hit me. He wasn't visiting. He was scoping the place. I panicked, locked the doors, kept the engine running. I didn't want to speed off just yet. I didn't want to make a scene, but I was ready to. He stood there for maybe 20 seconds. No one answered the door. Then, without saying a word, he turned around and walked back to the car. He got in like nothing had happened and said calmly, "Take me somewhere else. I gave the wrong place." He gave another address, this time in Green Hills, 10 minutes away. When I dropped him off, he handed me $200 in cash. "For the trouble," he said. I drove straight home after that. I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said or that house. Something felt wrong. The next morning, I looked up the Bell Mead address he first gave me. 2 years ago, a man had been murdered inside that same house. Home invasion. The killer was never caught. No leads, no suspects. Only that the intruder wore gloves and left no trace. The photo of the house in the article matched exactly. I reported everything to the police. I handed them the license plate, the route, and a voice recording I made during the ride when I started feeling unsafe. 3 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. The voice was calm, low. "You shouldn't have shared that, but you didn't really see anything, did you?" That was it. He hung up. I felt cold, violated. A week after that call, I came home late from work and noticed something strange. An envelope was tucked neatly under my front doormat. No name, no handwriting. Inside, there were 2 things. A $100 bill, crisp, clean, like it had just come from the bank, and my old driver's license, the one I'd lost a year ago and assumed had slipped between seats or fallen out at a rest stop. But seeing it now, it hit different. I never told anyone it was missing, not even my girlfriend at the time, and yet here it was, handed back to me like some kind of souvenir. The cash wasn't what scared me. It was the way it was, given no threat, no note, no warning, just a quiet message. Some people shout to scare you. Others do it with silence and a smile. He knew exactly what that envelope would do to me. He didn't need to say, "I'm watching." He wanted me to feel it. And I did.